You're basically done with your song and something still feels off, right? If you've already recorded with great gain level, you did your backgrounds, you did your panning, you added some effects, there are still some final adjustments that will bring this vocal mix home. But hold on, if you haven't done some of those things I mentioned, this is the final video of my mixing series, so be sure to go back and follow the steps I laid out in the previous videos. Today we're gonna address the common issues people run into when finishing their mix, like vocals being too harsh or too muddy, volumes kind of being all over the place. I'll give you some best practices for finalizing your mix, and we'll also address mastering in Soundtrap. Let's jump right in. First thing I want to address is an element of gain staging known as volume riding. If you do this to your lead vocals, your compressors will be able to perform way better. In a way, we're like pre-compressing the vocals by automating the volume. That way our compressor won't have to work so hard. The reason we don't want our compressor working too hard is simply because when it does, it can cause weird unnatural effects as it overreacts to the input it receives. With volume riding, we can ensure that we get a super smooth sound. All you have to do is automate the volume changes by clicking this button right here. This opens your automation. Click here and select volume. So this is the vocal we want to volume ride. And you may be thinking you want to turn the level of these vocals up to match this one, but that's actually incorrect. You never want to turn your volume above 0 dB. So we're actually going to turn down the louder vocals, but then we're going to rely on our limiter plugin to make everything louder. So I'm pretty happy with the volume of all of this. I just feel like this is going to need to come down a bit. So I'm just going to place a dot around each one and turn this down. And let's just listen back to that and see if it sounds nice and even in volume. It feels right. It feels right. Cool, that actually sounded really even on the first try. You might have to try it a few times, but then when we got over here, I could definitely hear it get louder. So I'm gonna turn that one down too. And notice how I place my dots, but then I place another dot inside and I kind of give it a little bit of a fade down. I don't want it to look like this, so it's like a sudden drop. I kind of want it to slope into it. Click. Let's see how that sounds. It feels right. It feels right. So I don't know if you noticed that, but on the second one, it actually sounded like it got quieter. That's what I want you to be careful of when you do this. So I'm going to turn this one up a little bit more. Feels right. Awesome. Looks like the rest of my vocal is about the same volume, so I can actually just drag the whole thing down. But if I did this and I had quieter vocals come later on, they would be turned down as well. So you'd want to make sure you come back and put this back up to 0 dB. All right, you can go ahead and click away from the automation and you'll actually still see it right there. Okay, next, another mistake I see with compression, a lot of people will over compress, and that gives me a feeling like my ears are being pulled at. Not good. Don't make dramatic changes to your compressor. Keep that ratio around 2:1 or max 3:1. Anything higher than that is going to sound over compressed. Here's what an over compressed vocal sounds like. Don't know where to go, I just know. Oh, it feels right. Back to 2:1. And here's your softer compression. Don't know where to go, I just know. Oh, it feels right. Much cleaner. If you feel like you need more compression than that, you probably just need to do your volume riding. Next, let's look at issues that EQ can solve. Muddy is what we call that low mid area when there's too much vocal presence there. Here's a quick example of what a muddy vocal sounds like, and then we'll fix it. Don't know where to go, I just know. Oh. I'm gonna open up my visual EQ and I'm gonna dip it around 200 to 400, nice and wide, not that wide, maybe like around there. And that should help clean up some of that low end. It could probably also use more high end, so I'm gonna boost that too. Don't know where to go, I just know. Oh. Cool. Harsh vocals happen when the upper range is too present, and that happens to me a lot. Don't know where to go, I just know. Oh. It also sounds a bit thin, but we don't need to completely sacrifice the entire high end because harsh vocals kind of happen around the 5,000 to 8,000 hertz range. So I'm gonna put a little dip around here, probably gonna lower the high end, but still keep it there because we do want that breathy high end sparkle.
Don't know where to go, I just know, oh.
Much better. Notice how it still has that high end presence, but it's not like piercing our ears, right? Ooh, we had dipped the low mid out to correct some of the muddiness, but this vocal does not have any muddiness. It's actually missing some mud. So I might even do like the tiniest boost, and that should give this vocal some body that it's missing as well. You want it to sound like a natural, real voice of someone who's in the room with you. You don't want it to sound like so affected, right? We're always going for a natural sound, EQ compression wise. Careful when making these tweaks and keep it subtle, or you might run into a new problem entirely. We call that EQ surgery when you see things like this. Way too much. No EQ surgery. Again, our final sound shouldn't be too off from what your original voice sounds like. Another thing I want you to watch out for, and a lot of beginners do fall into this trap, which is adding too many special effects or making them way too loud. To some degree, adding effects is awesome. You want to do this, you want to create your own signature sound, but there is a law of diminishing returns here, because way too much reverb is going to actually contribute to muddying that mix. Too much of this effect can cause a collection of too many unpleasant frequencies. A good rule of thumb here, put it where you think it should be and then dial it back just a little bit more. Okay. So now let's say you're pretty happy with the mix in Soundtrap. You might actually even be done right now, but every professional mixing engineer will always test their mix on different speakers just to be sure their sound is consistent for all listeners. So export your song, go listen in the car, listen on your iPhone, listen in different headphones, listen on a different set of speakers if you have them. I just use these two speakers. I don't have a sub. These are kind of high-end happy. So in my studio, it sounds like there's less bass than in my car. So what I accidentally do a lot of times is I boost the bass in my session and it sounds great in here, but when I bring it to the car, it's so boomy and it's too much bass. I wouldn't have heard that if I just listened on these speakers. So go hit up the car test, write down anything you're hearing and bring it back in studio and make those tiny tweaks. All right, and finally, well, technically you would have done this before you tested on different speakers, but we're gonna talk about mastering now. Mastering is so easy in Soundtrap, and what this is going to do is help boost the overall loudness of the song as well as light tone shaping. So I'll just go to export, toggle on mastering. It's automatically set to classic, but you can hit edit and check out these different mastering presets. I love that there's a play button right here so I can just select a different setting and preview it. Once I found the right one, hit apply. I'm gonna choose wave and download it, and it is exporting. Before we wrap up this vocal mixing series, I wanna give you a quick recap checklist, and you can screenshot this and revisit it when you record your next song. Hardware, software setup. Got your mic height, got your pop filter, good mic technique. Plug everything in and set your input in Soundtrap to your interface. Next, set up some vocal tracks, set a proper gain level, set the tempo of your session, turn on Vocal Tuner and set your key, pan your background vocal tracks, then start recording. Side note, check out the vocal production video I put together with all my best practices for how to approach the mic. Then set up your vocal chain, your EQ, noise gate, compression, de-essing, limiting, then your vocal effects like delay, saturation, reverb, and other fun effects. Adjust those background vocal levels, do any volume riding you need to do, listen for those tweaks you might need to make to your plugins like we talked about today, export your song using Soundtrap's mastering settings, listen on different speakers, and do any final tweaks you need. Please leave a comment, let me know if you're here, let me know if this helps, and definitely tell me if you have any questions, if you want me to make a video on anything specific. Make sure you're subscribed to keep up with my vocal production tips, and I'll see you in the next video.